Hello, guys. This is Josue Ramon with Excellence Premier Real Estate. And today I'm going to share with you how to complete the new purchase agreement using our system SkySlope. Let's get started. Okay, so the first step is to go to Forms and click Create. Then the system is going to ask you who is the client. So in this case, we are representing the buyer. Name is Juan Lopez. Then it's going to ask you, is there a property yet? Let's do 123 Main Street in the city of Southgate, which our office is located. The state of California, 90280. And then we're going to name it Main Street, 123 Main Street, Juan, let's say Juan Lopez. And then hit create. And then it's showing that we save you some time and pre-selected forms you might need for your buyer. Got it. So hit next. In this case, we're going to add another form, which is the SPBB. I'll explain to you later why we're adding this form. Then hit next. So we're going to select the RPA and the SPBB. Then fill and send. All right. So here we are, RPA California Residential Purchase Agreement. And this bundle or this package has the disclosure regarding real estate agency relationship. You already know how to basically use this form. Basically is disclosing that you are representing the buyer, and it's going to show Juan Lopez, the date, the broker information, which in this case is Excellence Premier Real Estate, the brokerage license, office license, my name, Josue Ramon, which I'm the agent, and then my license number and also the date. Then we have the new purchase agreement 7 from 2024, revised recently. So we're going to place the date prepared. In this case, in this example, let's put today's date. Then this offer is from Juan Lopez. The property address, 123 Main Street in Los Angeles County. And then we can also include in the offer, like let's say it's Banana Real Estate. And then the if we have the broker's license, if not, you can leave it alone. And you can also include, let's say it's John Smith, the listing agent. And then basically we're going to say that John Smith is representing the seller. You have to click here, and also representing the seller in this case. And we are representing the buyer. So click here. The next step is to place the purchase price. Let's say it's a property that we would like to offer $600,000. The close of escrow, which is 30 days in this case. If it was a cash offer, I would select cash, but in this case, it's going to be financing. The expiration of offer, I'm going to leave it alone. It's automatically for 3 days after buyer signatures. Initial deposit, let's do $5,000 as a deposit, which is due within 3 business days after acceptance. In case I need to increase, let's say I negotiated that $5,000 now and I'm waiting for some money, let's say the buyer is saying that, we can also increase the deposit if we do that. It is really rare that we do that, so let's leave that alone. And let's say it's an FHA loan, so let's select FHA. If it was a conventional loan, 3% or 5% down, or even 20 to 30% down, just leave it alone. In this case, let's say, for example, let's leave it at conventional, 20% down. So the loan amount in this case will be $600,000. In the financing, I will multiply by 80%. So they're only financing 480,000 because they're coming with 20% down in this example. If it was an FHA loan, you select here and then do the math. How much is $600,000 minus the down payment, is, which is 3.5%? That's 21,000. If it was an FHA loan, the loan amount will change to 579,000. Let me go back. There you go. Which is 96.5% finance and 3.5% is the down payment. So let's leave it like this. Let's say there's an additional finance amount. Let's say there's a second loan. In this case, there's no second loan. Oh, let me go back. If you would like to protect your buyer, we have to include the interest rate not to go over, let's say, 7.5%. All right. So let's go down, which we always protect our clients, right? So let's say the client needs 2% in closing costs. We can either put the amount, or in this case, seller credit, if any, to buyer. Let's say 2%, which is the purchase price is 600, so 2% will be $12,000 that they can use towards their impounds, towards their closing cost. Seller credit to be applied to closing costs, or other could be to buy points, for instance, or even to cover our, let's say, compensation. But the right way to ask for, let's say, before, sending the offer, before even showing, let's say I talked to Mr. John Smith and I was able to negotiate, or he actually told me that the seller was willing to help with $12,000 plus a commission of another 2% towards my compensation. So the right way to do it is to select G3, which is seller agrees to pay obligation of buyer to compensate buyer's broker under a separate agreement, which is the SPBB. So you have to click here, and then I'm gonna do another video how to complete the SPBB. Okay, so stay tuned for the next video. Let's continue with the offer. So verification of all cash usually is attached to the offer, or you can select 3 days. Verification of down payment, I usually leave it blank. Verification of loan application, then verification of condition, five days prior to close of escrow. I usually leave it blank. And sign request. Loan, 17 days. This is basically the contingencies, guys. This is the time to remove contingencies. So I usually leave it alone. Like the norm is 17 days after acceptance for the loan, the appraisal, the investigation of the property, information access to the property, 17 days to review disclosures or documents, preliminary title report, 17 days, and so on. So I leave it blank. Then possession, time of possession upon notice of record. Usually is I usually do it. I leave it like that automatically. Then seller occupied or vacant units, close of escrow, which they have to vacate the property at the close of escrow. If they need more time, let's say the seller is selling, and the other agent, Mr. John Smith, told you like, oh, the seller needs another 29 days after the close of escrow to vacate the property, then you're going to select here and also include the SIP form. But usually it doesn't happen. They usually, in my cases, the sellers, they vacate the property at the close of escrow. And in case there's tenants in the property and the tenant is going to stay there, we need to also complete this form, tenant occupied property addendum, which is going to state that the tenants are going to stay there at the property at the close of escrow. Documents, I leave it like that. Also, leave it blank. Super important in this section, items included and excluded. So let's say the buyer, when he saw the property, he basically mentioned to me that he wanted the stove. And also, let's say he says, I want the microwave. So let's make sure we click there. That way, when we close escrow, these items are going to be there. They're going to stay, included in the sale. Excluded items could be that, let's say the seller told you that they're taking the washer and dryer, then you can include them here. Allocation of cost. NHD, usually the seller pays for it, or usually that's what I ask. Everything is negotiable, but in our case, usually we ask for the seller to pay for it. Optional wildfire disclosure report. I select the seller. Smoke detectors and CO detectors, also the seller. Government inspection, the seller. Government, and this is usually for there's some cities like the city of Southgate, that they have the pre-sale inspection or the city inspection. So I usually request those inspections to be done, just to make sure everything is permitted. Escrow fee, I usually select each to pay their own fees. Owner's title insurance, usually the seller pays for it. The transfer tax and the county transfer tax and city transfer tax, I usually request the seller to pay for it. If there's any HOA, for instance, instead of being this a home, maybe it's a condominium, a townhome, that there's an association, or a house that there's an association, you have to make sure that you disclose who's going to pay the transfer fee. So I usually select the seller in this case, because we like to protect our buyers, right? And also private transfer fees, usually the seller is automatically seller. And let's say you need the home warranty, the seller to pay for it, and you can list like the company and also up to what amount. This is other forms. Let's say if this property was a probate, you have to include the probate agreement purchase addendum, or if it was a manufactured home, an addendum, or mobile home, and so on. So just keep going. In this case, it doesn't apply if it's a single family residence. And then make sure the buyer initials this section, liquidated damages. Also arbitration. Let's make sure they initial here. Then he signs, let's say in this case, Juan Lopez signs here and the date. And if it was an entity, you select here and also place the person, the legally authorized signers, basically. They have to sign. If there's more than 2 signatures, there's also an additional signature addendum to include the third person or fourth or fifth. I'm going to do a video about it too, coming soon. And then your signature, in this case, mine. Then Banana Real Estate. Okay. Did I forget an initial? Yes, an initial, buyer's initial here. Make sure you cover all the initials and signature. This is the buyer's investigation advisory. Basically, disclose or tells the buyer what type of inspections they can do. For instance, the home inspection, the termite inspection, and so on. They have to sign here and the date. Possible representation of more than one buyer or seller. So basically, it's telling Juan Lopez that we might have another buyer that is interested in the same property, right? Or we might have a seller also that is interested in that property, or so on. So he has to sign the addendum. Fair housing and discrimination, that we're not discriminating, race, color, nationality. Sign and date. And buyer homeowners insurance advisory. Sign and date. Wire fraud, to make sure that don't give any money to anyone that calls, right? So they're basically telling the buyer to obtain phone numbers and account numbers only from escrow officers, property managers, or landlords at the beginning of the transaction. Do not wire or electronically transfer funds prior to calling to confirm the transfer instructions. So they have to sign here and date. California Consumer Privacy Act advisory, disclosure, and notice. So basically, it's telling that during the process of buying and selling real estate, your personal information will be collected and likely shared with others, including real estate licensees, a multiple listing service, real estate internet website, and so on. So basically, they have to sign here and the date. And guys, if you're also negotiating your commission, this is the form, guys, that I'm gonna do a video how to complete, coming soon. So stay tuned. All right, so let's talk about the seller payment concession. Let's say I already talked to Mr. John Smith. We're negotiating a property. I already asked John Smith if the seller was interested or offering commission. He said yes, but only 2%. So in this case, guys, in this example, what I'm going to do is that I'm preparing the offer. So it's today's date. Make sure you place the date. And the property is on 123 Main Street in Southgate. And the buyer's name is Juan Lopez. I'm representing Mr. Juan with our brokerage Excellence Premier Real Estate, and the seller broker is Banana Real Estate. So basically, what I'm gonna do is I'm going to ask the seller payment to buyer's broker. So amount subject to paragraph 1B below. Seller agrees to pay buyer's broker 2%. Let's say it's 2% of the purchase price, and if any, or if check an amount, could be a flat fee also. Now, this is really important, guys. Maximum seller payment obligation. The seller should only be obligated to pay buyer's broker the lesser of. So let's say I when I met Mr. Juan Lopez, BRBC, let's say I negotiated, which I already did a video, guys. Go check it out, how to complete the BRBC. Let's say Mr. Juan Lopez completed this form and is showing 3% compensation, right? Just keep that in mind, okay? Um, so basically, this form is saying that the seller is only going to cover the lesser amount. So in this case, 2%. So there's a balance of 1%. So in this case, the buyer is still liable for the difference, 1%. In this case, you can just have the buyer pay the difference, or you can always reduce if you like, or adjust your commission, right? It's up to you. The amount buyer obligated to pay buyer's broker representation agreement is applicable less any amount of the other that have agreed to pay the buyer's broker. So basically saying that basically the seller is going to help you, right? And it's the lesser amount. So let's say you did the agreement, the BRBC, with only 2% and they were paying 3%. So the seller is going to only pay the lesser amount. So, and how he's going to find out is because when we send the offer and also the SPBB, which is this form, we're going to send it along with the last page of the BRBC. As you can see, buyer has agreed to pay buyer's broker, such as the last page of the CAR form BRBC. So, guys, it's really important to make sure. Let me go back to the form, the BRBC. Let's go and see it. Make sure, guys, that this, what you agree on or the buyer agree on paying the 3%, is the same as the last page, 505. This is the last page that you're going to send to prove that there was an agreement. So he has to say 3% here, and also initial buyer and signature and date. If you don't provide these, guys, it's really important to know that the seller is not going to pay you the commission. So if you don't have proof that you have an agreement, a buyer's agreement, and also if you don't provide the last page of the BRBC. So, guys, really important to include that. So, delivery of buyer representation, buyer authorized buyer's broker, escrow holder. So, I wanted to share with you this. If there is no buyer representation agreement, then the seller has no obligation to pay your buyer's broker. So, guys, it's really important to have the BRBC, the buyer's agreement. So, guys, hopefully this video helps you. I know there's a little bit of resistance, right, in the changes, but we need to adapt, guys. So if you have any questions, feel free to call me. You know how to reach me. And if you're not part of our team, guys, so we're always training. We are the #1 team in the excellence organization, over 1,000 agents. Also the #1 team at the Greater Downey Association of Realtors. So come and join us. If you have any questions, feel free to call us. And remember, do not fear. Excellence Premier is here.